A world engulfed, the Second World War. The world watched in horror as, in 1939, a conflict erupted that would scar the 20th century. The outbreak of war was sudden, yet the tensions had been simmering for years, a result of unresolved issues from the previous global conflict. World War II was a global conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. It spanned continents and oceans, involving more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. It pitted the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, against the Allied forces, led by Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The ideological clash between fascism and democracy defined the era. From the beaches of Normandy to the jungles of the Pacific, millions fought and died in a struggle for freedom and democracy. The war saw some of the most significant battles in history, including the D-Day landings and the Battle of Stalingrad. This global conflict reshaped the geopolitical landscape, leaving an indelible mark on human history. The aftermath saw the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, setting the stage for the Cold War. The war's impact extended far beyond the battlefields. It transformed societies, economies, and technologies, leading to significant advancements in medicine, engineering, and communication. It led to the deaths of an estimated 40 to 85 million people, both military personnel and civilians. The sheer scale of the human cost was staggering, with entire cities reduced to rubble. The Holocaust, orchestrated by Nazi Germany, stands as a chilling testament to the horrors of prejudice and genocide. 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, were systematically exterminated in one of history's darkest chapters. The war forever altered the course of human history, leaving behind a legacy of both destruction and resilience. Nations rebuilt, and the world vowed to prevent such a catastrophe from happening again. The seeds of this devastating conflict were sown in the aftermath of World War I. The harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles left Germany humiliated and economically crippled. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to ensure peace, instead fostered resentment and instability, particularly in Germany. This discontent was a fertile ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. This, coupled with the global economic depression of the 1930s, created fertile ground for the rise of extremist ideologies and set the stage for another global conflict. The world was plunged into chaos once more. The world would soon face the consequences of its failure to address the root causes of war. The lessons learned from this period continue to shape international relations and our understanding of peace and conflict. Seeds of conflict, the aftermath of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended World War I. It was a momentous occasion, bringing together diplomats and leaders from around the world to chart a new course for global peace. The treaty aimed to prevent future wars by holding Germany accountable for its role in the conflict. It was a document filled with hope and the promise of a more stable world order. However, the treaty's harsh terms, including crippling reparations and territorial concessions, sowed the seeds of resentment in Germany. The German populace felt betrayed and humiliated, leading to widespread discontent. The treaty's impact on Germany was profound. The economic strain it imposed led to severe hardship for ordinary Germans who struggled to make ends meet in a devastated economy. The war guilt clause, which forced Germany to accept sole responsibility for the war, was particularly humiliating. This clause not only damaged national pride, but also fueled a sense of injustice and anger. The economic consequences were equally severe. Factories closed, unemployment soared, and the German people faced a bleak future. The loss of territory, coupled with the burden of reparations, crippled the German economy. Entire regions were stripped away, leaving many feeling like strangers in their own land. Hyperinflation spiraled out of control, leaving millions impoverished. The value of the German mark plummeted, and people resorted to using money for wallpaper or fuel, as it was worth more than the currency itself. This economic hardship, combined with a sense of national humiliation, created a fertile ground for extremist ideologies. Desperate for change, many Germans turned to radical solutions. The Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, exploited this discontent, promising to restore German pride and power. Hitler's rhetoric resonated with a populace eager for hope and revival. The treaty's failure to address the underlying causes of World War I ultimately paved the way for another global conflict. The unresolved issues and festering resentments were a ticking time bomb. The League of Nations, created to prevent future wars, proved ineffective in the face of rising nationalism and aggression. Its inability to enforce its resolutions highlighted the need for stronger international cooperation. The world watched as the fragile peace crumbled, leading to the outbreak of World War II just 2 decades later. The lessons of Versailles were stark and sobering. The legacy of Versailles serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of addressing the root causes of conflict and the need for effective international cooperation. It reminds us that peace is fragile and must be nurtured with care and understanding. The rise of evil Axis powers and their ambitions. The 1930s witnessed the rise of totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan. These nations, driven by a combination of economic woes, political instability, and a desire for greater power, began to assert their dominance on the world stage. Fueled by nationalist sentiment and expansionist ambitions, these nations formed the Axis powers. Their alliance was not just a military pact, but a shared vision of a new world order, one that would be dominated by their ideologies and interests. Adolf Hitler, with his ideology of Aryan supremacy, sought to establish German dominance over Europe. His vision was one of a vast German empire, free of those he deemed inferior, and he used propaganda and terror to achieve his aims. Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy, dreamed of reviving the Roman Empire. He believed that Italy was destined for greatness and sought to expand its territories across the Mediterranean and Africa. In Japan, militaristic leaders, driven by imperial ambitions, sought to expand their empire in Asia. They believed that Japan had a divine right to rule over its neighbors and pursued aggressive policies to achieve this goal. The Axis powers' aggressive policies, including Germany's remilitarization of the Rhineland and Italy's invasion of Ethiopia, were met with appeasement from the Western powers. This policy of appeasement was intended to prevent another large-scale war, but it only served to embolden the Axis leaders. This policy, aimed at avoiding war, only emboldened the aggressors. Western leaders, hoping to maintain peace, made concessions that allowed the Axis powers to grow stronger and more confident in their plans. Hitler, in particular, interpreted appeasement as weakness and continued his expansionist policies. He saw the lack of resistance as a green light to pursue his ambitions without fear of significant opposition. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria in the Anschluss, a move that violated the Treaty of Versailles but was met with little resistance. This bold action demonstrated the failure of appeasement and the growing threat posed by the Axis powers. The Axis powers' ambitions ultimately led to the outbreak of World War II. Their relentless pursuit of territorial expansion and disregard for international agreements pushed the world into a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. Their belief in their own superiority and their disregard for international law set the stage for a global conflict. The world was forced to confront the harsh realities of unchecked aggression and the consequences of failing to stand up to tyranny. The world watched in horror as these regimes, driven by hatred and a lust for power, plunged the world into another devastating war. The human cost was immense, with millions of lives lost and countless others forever changed by the horrors of the conflict. The rise of the Axis powers serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked aggression and the importance of standing up to tyranny. The aftermath of World War II led to the establishment of international bodies like the United Nations, aimed at preventing such a catastrophe from ever happening again. Section 4. Blitzkrieg lightning strikes across Europe. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, marking the beginning of World War II. The German army, employing a new military tactic known as Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, quickly overwhelmed the Polish defenses. Blitzkrieg relied on speed, surprise, and concentrated firepower to break through enemy lines. Tanks, supported by dive bombers and mobile infantry, rapidly advanced deep into enemy territory, disrupting communication and logistics. The fall of Poland sent shockwaves throughout Europe, Great Britain and France, honoring their treaty obligations, declared war on Germany. However, the initial stages of the war in Western Europe were characterized by a period of relative inactivity known as the Phony War. This period came to an abrupt end in April 1940 when Germany launched a surprise attack on Denmark and Norway, quickly occupying both countries. In May 1940, Germany unleashed its full military might on Western Europe. The Netherlands, Belgium and France fell victim to the Blitzkrieg. The speed and ferocity of the German advance stunned the Allies. Paris fell to the Germans in June 1940, and France was forced to sign an armistice. The swift German victories in the early years of the war demonstrated the effectiveness of the Blitzkrieg strategy and left much of Europe under Nazi control. Section 5. Divided, we fall. Yugoslavia and the resistance. The German invasion of Yugoslavia in April 1941 marked the beginning of a brutal occupation and a complex resistance movement. Yugoslavia, a patchwork of ethnicities and religions, was ill-prepared for the German onslaught. The country was quickly overrun and a puppet government was installed. However, the spirit of resistance against the Nazi occupation ignited across the nation. Two main resistance movements emerged: the Chetniks, a Serbian nationalist group, and the Partisans, a communist-led multi-ethnic force led by Josip Broz Tito. The Chetniks, initially focused on resisting the Axis powers, later collaborated with the occupiers against the Partisans. This internal conflict within the resistance movement added another layer of complexity to the situation in Yugoslavia. The Partisans, despite being outnumbered and outgunned, proved to be a formidable force. They waged a relentless guerrilla war against the Axis occupiers and their collaborators. The Partisans' success in tying down significant German forces played a crucial role in the Allied victory in the Balkans.